Here's the truth that makes contractors uncomfortable. You can't market your way out of operational chaos. Today's guest lives on the operational side, and he has a line that you're going to steal. Sales is for the show, but production is for the dough. Welcome to the Contractor's Edge, the show where we break down the tips, tools, and tactics that you need to grow your home service business. Whether you're in a truck or at the office, we're here to give you the edge you need to win. I'm Mike Stiers.
I'm Anthony Brown. Today, we're joined with Will Blake. He's a contractor operator, software founder, and one of the sharpest minds I know on margins, labor, pay for performance, and production management. This matters because growth breaks when marketing gets ahead of operations.
Will Blake is a co-owner of Vesta Foundation Solutions, serving 60 plus residents a week with multiple locations across Arkansas and Oklahoma. He's helped grow that business into a team of 80 plus with operations in multiple states. He's also the founder of Construct My Future, co-host of Beers with Contractors, one of our favorite podcasts, and the founder of Performance IO, where he's packaged real-world performance pay, labor modeling, and production systems into software contractors can actually use. Will, welcome to the show.
Man, my guys, how have we been? And we know each other so well. We love talking to one another in person, but never have we met in this sort of format. So now I'm excited because now we can have Alyssa chop all of our screw ups up
Oh,
on
yes.
the final cut.
You're gonna make it into the behind the scenes blooper reels.
I know, that's right.
Will, I mean, especially, doing the zoom in on your face and get it all. Alyssa's going to love that. We might even turn it into like a music video.
That's awesome. Thanks for having me. Obviously, I'm excited, Mike, because I know when you said you were going to start a podcast, I was like, don't do it.
Yep. You tried to talk me out of it. You were close
It,
too. I
I
thought,
mean,
maybe
yeah,
maybe I shouldn't do it. Then we had the other side, kind of like the tug of war. So I was like, maybe
no.
we just give this a run.
No, super pumped. You guys are doing a great job, obviously, helping contractors. That's the core thing is like not trying to just grow followers. If you just want to help people, it works
Mhm.
out. And in the first three episodes, it was like, yeah, Anthony and Mike's going to be just fine.
That's fantastic. No, we appreciate obviously all the insight you're providing, and for our audience, we're obviously excited to have you on because I think that you just bring all this crazy experience. The fact that we see you at all these shows, we have an opportunity to talk to you at those, and this is a great chance to bring you live to our audience and really just kind of bring them up to speed. What are you currently seeing in the home service world?
Well, obviously, we have been reeling from a lot of different cost issues as contractors in our industry in the last 3 years. It's just been nonstop. It's like we're constantly getting hit with. I know it's weird to think that shortages is still a thing, but yeah, we're still seeing certain shortages, some plateauing costs on certain materials, but they're not nudging down like we'd like to see. That those are the negatives. What I'm seeing is actually a market expansion in a lot of regions of the country. And Mike, I know you and I have talked about this. I mean, the winners right now in our country, Tennessee, the Carolinas, Georgia, is seeing the highest migration by percentage right now. So those
Hmm.
states are killing it. And
Yes.
I know there's a lot of contractors out there saying, well, there's so many big competitors and things like that. Well, yeah, I got big competitors too, but that's showing that the market is expanding. And like, for example, heck, our concrete leveling folks out there that do concrete leveling, that market is expanding 4.7% year over year. So the opportunity is getting better. So I know there's the frustrating side of rising cost in property and casualty insurance, materials, things like that, but also the market is expanding, meaning there's more dollars being transacted for your
Hmm.
products and services in your given area. So I like to find the silver lining, and not all parts of the country are experiencing that. Areas like southern Arizona, for example, having a massive plateau and a decline in lead generation in that specific area. So, but other areas of the country just killing it right now. And of course, we're coming into season as of this recording, February 2026. So, I've got an optimistic outlook on 2026 for
Yeah,
most of the people we know.
Yeah,
I
and
know
as I
Mike
know
and I.
we're excited about that too. And just for our listeners, as we get into the details, it'll kind of come a little bit further into the show. You're going to understand a little bit more as to why Will has all of these amazing statistics. I'm kind of expecting that he's going to be giving these to us along the way. And it is really because of Performance IO. I don't want to jump ahead too far because I want to get into the granular details of that platform, but I think it's just helpful for everyone to be able to understand. Literally, you have clients that you support all over the United States. And so you're able to see into these areas. And I know we've been talking about those really hot states and hot points of growth. And I feel like everyone can eat. It's just a matter of appropriately kind of like positioning yourself. But I love, the positive outlook on potential for growth too.
Well,
And I know Mike and I were feeling the same way about 26 because 25 like really did present to you challenges, right? That seemed really similar to what you got before that, before the boom that everybody kind of just lucked into around the COVID time, right? Like the 2018, 2019 challenges, the fluctuations, like you had to really pay attention to where markets were moving and how or why they were moving. And then you get COVID kind of reset the board a little bit and was kind of easy to be anywhere at that
mhm.
time. And now it feels like we're settling back into like a real like tug of war, push and pull for, what's growing, what's shrinking, like what do you need to pay attention to?
Yeah, and I'm glad you say that, Anthony. That's how our businesses should be. It's it. I guess the best way to put it is it's a dance, right? It was not a dance in 2021, 2022.
Right.
And I think we're still clinging on to that as contractors a little bit. It's like, no, you actually have to ask for the business a few times in the home. You have to pick up your phone because people are not knocking down your doors with endless lines of credit here. I feel we've returned to quite a degree of normalcy as what contractors should be dealing with on the day to day. Those that are newer to our industry, which we know a lot of folks that started in 2020, like this is their first kind of long cycle of this transition. And boy, I'm not saying they're ungrateful. They had it nice and easy those first few years.
Oh,
I
for
mean,
sure.
I mean, high closing rates, lower cost of leads. Customers were just writing checks left and right. Average dollar per sales going up, and now, yeah, it's like, oh, cool, yeah, we're in a competitive market, and it kind of feels like 2018 again. So, it's like this is how we should be, and I don't say that just in short experience. I mean, I'm dating all the way back to 2007 from my or
Mhm.
2006 from my experience, and somebody that grew a business through the '08, '09 recession. I'm not seeing a lot of the same issues there. And there's always some guy out there sitting on his lazy boy recliner, pecking at the keyboard, saying the world's burning down. I am not that person. I believe there's a lot of good runway for the home services business, and statistics are just statistics here. So I mean, that's
Mhm.
why I get into that. And to quote something for you, Mike, you talked about my knowledge, global knowledge. Yeah, we've got clients here in the US, Canada, we've even got some in Australia. But to quote Mitch Hedberg, Mitch Hedberg, the comedian,
Oh, yeah.
72% of all statistics were made on the spot. So we'll see how good the fact checkers are in the comments section from today's episode. So
Oh,
hopefully I get
yes,
it.
Will. Thank
Hopefully
you.
I make them keyboard warriors proud.
I love that. Now, I want to go a little bit into those details that right? From those insights that you have of having visibility into the operations, across the country and, different parts of the sphere, right? You talk about the correlation of scaling by marketing versus operations, right? I want you to kind of expand on that for our listeners. Specifically, there's this a catchphrase that Mike called out in the intro.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the sales is for the show, production is for the dough.
Well, and it could be reversed. I mean, if you just want to spend it all on the front end in marketing and sales and not make anything, then
You
then
could.
on the front end it's for the dough, and on the back end it's for the no because there's nothing left.
That's
But
right.
yeah, I think in to give a little history of this, like my younger days, it was like leads will fix all my problems, right? And we're going to go scorched earth. We're going to grow 100%, and you can do that. There's markets that do it, and I always tell folks that we know, but also any listener of both of our podcasts, I would say like, well, read between the lines here. How much of this is bravado and somebody just being braggadocious about their numbers? When you go to a
Yep.
conference and you hear they grew 150%, when I hear that, I hear dumpster fire. How do I know? Because I've been through it 4 times, and there's no shortcut.
Yeah. Contractors, quick reality check. You spent the money to advertise, you got the lead, you set the appointment, and you sold the job. Awesome. But if production's leaking profit, you might as well light a stack of cash on fire because marketing cannot fix sloppy installs. That's why I want you to check out our friends at Performance IO. Will Blake and his team built a pay for performance platform that helps you recruit and keep top talent, motivate installation teams, and simplify the whole process. Managers get control over pace, labor, and profit job by job. Will has been running it in his own company with 14 crews for over 3 years. Across thousands of crews on their platform, the averages are strong. About 12% increase in productivity, a 3 to 4% decrease in labor, and collections improving by 11%. Simply put, that's margin back in your pocket so you can reinvest, hire, and grow without chaos. Now, Will made a special offer exclusively for the Contractors Edge listeners, and it's only available for a limited time. Use the link in the description to book your demo and get 2 free months, but you have to do it by March 31st. And when you reach out, tell Will and his team that you heard about the deal on Contractors Edge. Go to PER4MANCE.io.
But like, for example, you invested, say, into a business on the stock market, right? And you want good returns out of that. And when you don't get good returns, you turn and you put your money somewhere else, right? Well, we see business owners in our industries do this all the time where we're dumping money into marketing saying, yes, we got a bunch of leads. And then we're ineffectively taking what we spent and minimizing our returns on the back end. And in kind of another roundabout way of saying show and dough for marketing and sales is for the show, productions for the dough, is I like to call them also offense and defense.
I like that.
Sales and marketing puts points on the board. That's the fuel that's going to drive the business and win the game. But defense, the production and operations side is what's going to prevent the other team from making you lose the game, which is losing money. And, just a great case in point, like you guys deal with this where you have a company that, let's say they're installing $100,000 a month and their marketing budget is $10,000, 10%. Pretty easy math, right? Well, if you're inefficient and you only installed 90,000, your marketing budget just went up 1.1 percentage points. Your marketing cost you over 1% more in your revenue, which took away from your profits, which those profits fuel growth. But then again, you take a company that installed 110,000 with the same guys, their marketing by percentage went down by 1.1%. And of course, what happens is that goes to the bottom line, which you can reinvest in growth. So that's why it's like you had this beautiful 9-pound, 2-ounce baby named a lead. We called it lead. And you pick your pronoun, okay?
Yeah.
And then we just like, all right, you're gonna grow up yourself. No, like you gotta take care of that baby through all the growth steps, right?
Right.
Otherwise, that baby's gonna start stealing from your cupboard and when your wallet's hanging out, all that stuff. And the next thing you know, the dogs are let out. That, by the way, I've got full of colorful metaphors, but you guys get my drift here is like, we've done all the hard work. Why are we not harnessing all the costs not associated with just the upfront marketing costs?
No, and
So true.
we're definitely in the same vein, like here at Contractors Edge and at the agency as well. I know you've heard us preach it before, but one of the easiest things to do to improve your marketing is to improve like your lead management. And so that same metaphor that you were talking about for like raising that baby lead, we look at it the same way and try to call out all the different stops because that, like, to go into your metaphor, let's say that a lead, when you're talking to it for the very first time, is an infant, right? When you're actually getting on the phone with them, maybe they're a toddler. The first conversation is actually your Google business profile or your website. Or you've started a conversation, even though you can't respond back yet, like live, that conversation is happening. Cut costs at the beginning of that conversation. The next spot, say, I don't know, you've got a 3-year-old now, and that's picking up the phone. So like somebody is reaching out and they're taking this conversation live and into real life, and people will kind of look for opportunities to save there instead of like improve like operationally. So like that 1% that you're talking about there, we like to do the 2% rule. If you can improve like any of these parts in that equation by 2%, it's actually monumental what it'll do once it works its way all the way through the system, especially if you're focusing on those like top level things like your website and your phones, because everything goes through there, right? So if you improve those by 2%, it means a lot at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
seen, not just from in a good example that I used before was just about productivity measurements, not even margin measurements for labor and things like that. But I know you guys see this. Like, man, if you can dial in efficiencies in every phase after you've gotten that lead, it can equate to a 6% bottom line difference. And this is where companies win and
Yes.
can scale in a way that's not going to make you insolvent or make you borrow money from the three F's, as I say, your friends, family, or fools, or stress your credit because, well, for example, we spend a lot of money on a new television campaign, right? You know those are expensive. Well, then we take the lead and we book it on a calendar. Well, the wise companies are booking it on a calendar sorted by their most efficient reps from top to bottom. And you guys know that a common metric in our business is average dollar per lead. So if you have a sales rep out there that, let's just take two of them, and sorry, back to metaphors. If you have an athlete that can bench press 400 pounds and then another athlete that can run a marathon, who's a better athlete? Well, they're both good athletes, right? They have different skill sets. Well, average dollar per lead evens the playing field with all of those athletes slash sales reps. So take a sales rep, they run 10 appointments, they sell three jobs, call it 30% closing, right? But the three jobs total to $10,000. Well, that means every single homeowner they meet with, that's $1,000 average dollar per lead.
Mhm.
So whether they sell it or not. So for example, our companies right now, we're at 3,700 average dollar per lead.
That's
We
great.
got some that are 4,200, some that are 2,400. So you better bet the people that have over 30 or $3,000 per lead are getting those appointments first. That
Yes.
alone will improve the growth and the formula for this new baby we just had called a lead. And then that's important because you can increase the results of that appointment by over 50% just by allocating your calendars properly,
It's
which
great.
ultimately gives you better efficiency rates for your marketing people because now they can spend
Yes.
more allowable cost per lead. And all we didn't do anything other than sort our frickin' calendars by the most efficient to the least efficient and fill those most efficient calendars first, right?
That's right. And
And
that's a great tip. I'm hoping listeners, I hope you're taking notes. What Will is dishing out right here is just years of experience, handling this firsthand, obviously within his own business and then also helping, contractors across the United States. This is honestly something, we always talk about, okay, what are these different KPIs we can and then inform, and then, individuals go and manage. This is another area of prioritization. And if you're able to do this, you improve your efficiency like amazing. So, you know, if you can get your best batter up to the plate and get him more at bats, it's going to bring more revenue into your company. We always, said the same thing. And then you also could get very granular where you've got specific reps that are just, assassins at
oh,
very
yeah.
specific, service. So you can send them off on a specific call and they're going to bring you back the money. Whereas if you give it to somebody that maybe they're not so good, like we always, and I know in your area it's a little bit different, but in Ohio, if a guy doesn't crawl in the crawl space, he's probably not closing that job. And so we would have certain individuals that wouldn't jump in the crawl space. And so you're like, yeah, I'm probably not going to send Bip out to run this thing. I'm going to send Scott because, he's going to jump up in there, take pictures, show the homeowner with his flashlight, and he's going to close that. And, that's another area where, okay, you can take your ADL, slice that a little bit thinner and look at how do your reps do with each of these services. And I'm sure for you, you've probably got guys that just crush it on the concrete lifting and leveling, but maybe they struggle in a different area. So you prioritize the leads even that much further.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gives you insight also on where does the training need to take place, right?
Mhm.
And I don't want to overwhelm people here. Like it's kind of like budgeting for your company, setting an annual budget. The first year you do it, like, it's gonna be a mess, but, do it. It's a
Yes.
lifestyle. And then come year 2 and 3, it just gets better with time. So when you get these efficiencies set and you start measuring them, 90% of CRMs have these measurables, right? It's just, and if they don't, find a better CRM. But
Yes.
but that's not me endorsing any CRM. And pardon, I love this, Anthony and Mike, because you guys, you're very good stewards of your clients and all that. You got to find the middle ground. I don't care who your clients are. I'm just going to tell them what I want to say,
Yeah.
and
No, we
probably
appreciate
what
it,
they
Will.
need to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like, yeah, that even just dialing in ADL by service type, like you don't have to do that right now. If you only got 2, 3 guys, don't do that. Just start tracking it
Yes.
and then
Hmm.
dial it in because if you start now, 5 years later, you're gonna thank yourself. Not we all have hindsight 2020, but you're gonna appreciate that because you have cash left in the bank to fuel growth, and that's where a
Hmm.
lot of folks just uh, gosh, I hate to say it, another metaphor. There's a great movie called "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" and they're walking down the road and there's a car coming down the highway and money's flying out the window. And, he pulls up and it's Babyface Nelson. He's like, "Where's the nearest town?" And they're like, "That way." And they hop in the car with him. M- Those companies that are growing from, say, 1 million to 3 million in a year, that
Hmm.
is that car. They're leaving so much flying out the window
So
because
true.
of these little things that honestly are systems. Heck, and I'll even get lower into it. That ADL metric, you can even dial it in by service type. And guess who does well with that? Marketing firms. It's like, hey, we're killing it on this ADL type for this service. Like, how can we make it better? And man, this is where it's just like our businesses, we funnel them into divisions, which is good for measurement and
Mhm.
KPIs and things like that. But at the end of the day, there's only one name on that business, and it's
Absolutely.
a
Hmm.
collection of all of them. So sorry to go off
And
on a rant. Alyssa's gonna have a
oh,
blast writing this down.
I like
Great.
that. It made me think of something too, because we had this conversation recently. Obviously it's 2026 now. We have to do a recaps and analysis of, what went right or wrong in 2025. And we had a certain account that had challenges in 25. It might have been the only account like that I had this type of challenge with. And that was what was so frustrating when looking back. And we didn't have all of those like nuances to the data, like broken out for us to be able to assess, especially like live through the year to notice that this problem is happening, right? If you come to us as a marketing agency and you say, get us leads, and that's all you give us is like the information of get us leads, like we're going to, build you some mean campaigns and they're going to make
Yeah.
your phone ring and you're going to get form submissions.
Mhm.
But what we didn't understand was what was behind the surface is that two of the services that they offer don't have even close to the same profit margins or ADL as the other services. And if you are just asking us to get leads, like we're going to get the leads that are the easiest to get and that cost you the least, right? There's not a calculation going in where we have the understanding of what is actually going to be best type of lead for you unless you're actually tracking and sharing that information. So like knowing of those services, which one have a higher ADL, knowing of those services, which ones have a higher profit margin, which ones have a faster turnover, which ones like there's so much more like to that economy that you can calculate out if you're actually tracking that data. And then to your point before, the first year you do it, it will be a mess, right?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
every year you don't do it is another year you don't have that weapon like for the future. Like that data is so useful.
Yeah, and it fuels decisions through multiple market cycles, everything. It's so important. You gotta start now.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's interesting because you guys were kind of like tiptoeing around it, but Will, at the agency, we always hear, need more leads, and we're like, wait a second, because we think, coming from the industry, we're like, all right, we know how many sales reps you have, we know how many crews you have. What what is going on that we're not, privy to? And sometimes, the business owners can be guarded. And we understand that, but for our listeners, like, when someone's asking for more leads, what can actually be happening, behind the curtain that kind of plays in a little bit more, in regards to capacity or, operational deficiencies. That's where I think I'd love to kind of dive in a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand, like, if you need more leads, first off, when you say I need more leads, which we all need more leads, it's the food and the fuel of our companies. Okay. Do you need more leads because you're starving, or you need more leads because you need caloric intake because you're about to grow? Right.
Yeah, there you go.
And a lot of times what I'm finding is companies don't have a very good grasp on their gross profit margin and cost of goods sold, because when I hear a company say growing 2 to 4 million in a year, well, that growth came from somewhere. There's cost attached to all of that growth.
Hmm.
Well, the first place it comes out of is your gross profit margin. So if you are not efficient as a company, of course, all your cash is going to dry out. And the first thing you're going to go is, well, we need more leads coming in. So then that way we can sell ourselves into bankruptcy. It's a death rattle. So, for example, and just to simplify, because I love getting in arguments online about this. Okay. Home service. Yeah, we're going to go through your P&L super fast because people go margin, margin, margin. None of them know what it means. So let's break this down today. You have income, not
Mhm.
selling a job, installed income,
Yes.
not selling the job. And I'm going to repeat it again, installed revenue, income. All right. Then we have materials, labor, sales commission, any subcontractor fees, and what I like to say, screw ups, you know,
Mhm.
and you got things attached to those like insurance, employee benefits to those employees, anything you can directly invoice to Mrs. Johnson, that's direct overhead. Those are your cost of goods sold. When you cut a line underneath that, that's your gross profit margin. Whatever is left over after paying those expenses, that's your gross profit margin. And our industry standard is 50 to 54%. Some are higher, but we see companies saying they need more leads and they're at 30%. And that means there's no cash left over to pay
Right.
things. So we're going back to the beginning to play offense when really we got to stop letting the other team take our score away, right? They keep getting
Yep.
pick sixes and all that stuff. So that's what I spend a lot of time focusing on, is getting that gross profit margin driven on, because then that helps ultimately with cash flow
Right.
and your accounts payable and things like that. So one of the things I help with a lot in that is, like I said, increase productivity. That's what performance.io does. But it also reduces labor. So you get a twofold improvement. You get more installed, which reduces your marketing spend.
Yep.
Yep.
Then you get reduced labor, which then improves the bottom line even more, i.e., your gross profit margin. Then you can pay for marketing, insurance, office staff, rent on the building, all of those things. Then you get a net operating margin. And that's where the confusion is gross margin, net operating margin, and net profit margin. There's actually three margins that a lot of people are not calculating in the business. And back before, when I said, like, if you can get this right, there's 6%. And I challenge you, not you two, but any listener out there, like, what would 6 cents out of every dollar going back into your pocket do for your personal wealth, your valuations for your companies, things like that do? Because when you frame it like that, it makes you stop and slow down and say, wow, I'm letting ego and growth get in the way of what could provide a lot of value in the market. And
Yep.
listen, we all as business owners, we got to make money, and we should be making great money for taking the risks that we involve or take in every day. But I'm talking about real value. You get the wealth, the customers get to see the added value, the employees get to see the added value. Hell, I got 15 different employee benefits right now in my company. Profit does a good thing for everybody, including the owners. And this is where we have to work hard on the operations side to dial those numbers in, because most of our industry, they just don't have anything to work off of. They just assume, let's go buy another truck. Well, I need more leads. Now I can't
Yeah.
keep up. Let me buy
Yeah.
another truck. And it's like, no, 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 you don't need any more trucks. You need to get more out of the trucks you have. And we're seeing across our industries, and I know you guys service a lot of companies, dollars a month is the standard going rate for install crews in the basement waterproofing foundation repair concrete leveling business. If you are below $120,000 a month, and I understand circumstances, there's something wrong. Either your pricing's messed up, you're not expecting enough out of your team, leadership is lacking in accountability, and ultimately you can shoo those under the rug or sweep them under the rug all you want. But ultimately what it's doing is you're just starving yourself for future growth. And
Yeah.
God forbid you take that growth and you funnel it into a credit line, which now you get interest on, and that's going to hit you again. So sorry to go
Mhm.
into a deep operational dive, but
Sure.
I'm passionate about this. And I love bringing this, shining a light on this with companies of like, let's just understand the numbers. And then now let's play the game to win, not
Yep.
play the game to just say, hey, I looked good. And it's
Mhm.
really
This is
important.
exactly why we wanted you on, Will. Anthony and I, we've been talking about this for a bit, and obviously, marketing and advertising strategy, great. We can talk about it all day. We can talk about, lead management all the way up to the point where you sold the job and then, it's handed off where, we don't have the experience and skill level to even speak on it is, really talking about margins and operations and what happens in production and, capacity and, allocation of resources and reinvestment. And, that's why I am so excited that you are literally taking us to church right now because everybody should be listening to what you are saying because if they're not aware of it right now, they're not tracking it, they haven't made note of it, they're really missing out. And, I feel obviously concerned for those businesses. So, you're not getting ridiculed. And just like you were saying, I know that there's some keyboard commandos out there that, will chase Will down, but
Yeah, bring them on, Bram.
but
Bring
it's
them on.
just
I love
it's
it.
just medicine, and you're just trying to, provide this information. So instead of, individuals getting upset, I would just be thankful because the information that you're providing is going to keep someone from experiencing something horrible, a disastrous situation. And, obviously I know, Anthony's going to have you dive a little bit more into like the capacities and, the operations and what can we expect from, an installation crew. But I just appreciate you providing this insight and information.
Yeah, I do, and I'll circle right back to that for you, Will. But I do want to point out that, like, the reason why, and you've said it in a couple different ways, the reason why on our end, like, we care to pay attention to these things that are like really kind of esoteric to what we do. It's really your business. There's not a lot of marketing agencies out there that are going to talk to you about these things. And the risk of it sounding like we're telling you how to run your business or that you're not running your business properly. Um, like when we do that, we're turning away money from you. Like if you're telling us to get you more leads and the only answer is for us to do more advertising or for you to like optimize the efficiency in your business and the route we choose is to try and help guide you towards that like efficiency, like that's us choosing to turn away like improperly spending your money, right? Like you can get more leads, a lot of the time we can get you more leads. It really depends on the market. It hurts our soul to just throw money away.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for us to do that. But the the better thing to do, the better course to send you down is for you to focus on these things because we, first of all, we don't know all the answers. Like there are things here that, Will just brought up that our listeners have not heard on this podcast before. And that's because of the experience you have. But those are the types of things that you start to notice or pay attention to when you are journeying that road, when you're actually paying attention, when you're setting a benchmark and then like working towards it, right? So I just wanted to point that out. And then Mike, the next question I had in here was like kind of circling back to what Will just said, where he kind of gave a golden ratio, golden rule for your
Yeah.
install crews, 120,000 a month, right? Break that down to a week and you're looking at about 40, right? Like so, well, 30. I just did that math wrong.
Yeah.
But like that's a good benchmark to have in general. And like Will was saying, when you don't come up to these benchmarks, that it's just a window for improvement, right? Like whenever I find these inefficiencies in a business, I get excited because you were able to run the business to where you're at now based on the way that you operated it before. Imagine what this business could be if you fix this, if you tweak this, if you improve this, every time you find one of these, it's not a pull my hair out, I'm frustrated, right? It's a raise my hand up excited, like you just found another way to bring more money into your life, your business, your family, your employees, your community, your like these are all good things every time. So I just wanted to point that out.
Well, and interestingly enough, it's you were nudging up, you were adjacent to it, Anthony. Like owners start businesses, not all of us, but many of us started to have freedom, right? And I don't want to be a slave to lead generation.
Right.
And if you are saying like I need more leads out of desperation, and we've all been there, by the way. I've been like, holy cow, we got a problem. Heck, it just happened this month. A snowstorm completely wiped out one of our highest generating home and garden shows. That's a problem. Am I going to go out of business because of it? No, because I did all the stuff before to keep me healthy, right? But when you can nail this down, it gives you the freedom to express some creativity with your marketing that otherwise would keep you up at night. I mean, and I want to paint a very clear picture. Like, it's a lot of times marketing feels like paid gambling, professional gambling. Like, I don't know, let's try this. Like, if this doesn't work, Mike, Anthony, this is going to be a problem versus
Oh yeah.
Mike, Anthony, dude, I want to try this. Let's run with it for 120 days. And if it doesn't work, we'll move on, but let's have fun doing it. And I give a great case study here. Like, and I'll break down the steps. Like, I'm negotiating a massive campaign with the Oklahoma City Thunder right now, which that's where I'm at. I'm in Oklahoma City. Most companies don't get to do that. You know why I'm also having fun with it? We can afford it. And
Hmm.
I get courtside seats. I get treated all fancy at the little founders lounge. I haven't even bought anything from them. And I'm kind of like, all right, we can have some fun doing this. But that's because we're getting leads on our terms, not on like desperate terms. Right. And I don't want to overcomplicate this because there's a lot of entrepreneurs, as I call them out there, just selling like, oh, do this, do that, blah, 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 and they give you everything fuzzy. Right?
That's
But no,
funny.
you get a lead. You obviously gotta pay for it. I don't care if it's a referral or anything. That's gonna convert to a cost per lead.
Mhm.
You spent X amount, how many leads you get? Simple math. Get a calculator, you got this figured out. Then how many converted to an appointment? Pretty simple. And every time you wanna dial it and make that measurement better, how many appointments got quoted? Do you have a sales rep out there that's not quoting appointments? You just paid to get this far. Are they not getting
Hmm.
quotes?
Yep.
All right. Well, how many sold? Your closing ratio. And then we could put ADL over that. Okay. Now, how many got scheduled and installed before they canceled? Because there are customers that cancel. Like, hey, family emergencies come up. All right. Well, out of that, what was the gross profit margin of that job you finally got over the goal line, put points on the board? And then now, did we literally count every dollar that went into that job costing and then decide, hey, what can be better or not, and recycle it back into the machine? And then it goes round and round. And those steps right there, like that's a very simplified view of it. And we can get granular. Like just start there. What's my cost per lead? How well am I converting those leads at average dollar per lead value, which is a ratio of closing? And then, of course, how many are canceling and how much are we installing at what gross profit margin? And the last one I didn't mention, are we exceeding our break even? Your install rates per week need to exceed your break even. And, Anthony, we talked about 30,000. I just want to add a reality to it. I've got crews that are not installing over $20,000 a month right now, or a week. Sorry. But guess what? They're training. One of them's a 22-year-old foreman who customers love. Rather than beating him down the ground saying install more, we're developing him. Why? Because we have crews installing $47,000 a week. By average, we're fine because we're playing the game on our terms, not the opponent's terms. So sorry to get preachy on that, but that's where it's like this is not like some weird metaphor that some speaker's talking about on some stage that you scurry home and then go, "What the hell was he talking about?" No, it's that simple. It's not easy,
That's great.
but it's simple.
No, I love the examples, the breakdown on the numbers. I'm curious, and this entertainment for myself and for the
Mhm.
listeners. we've all got them. We've got our share of the oh crap moments. But in your growth journey, with Vesta, can you give us like a oh crap moment that you learn from that maybe now in sharing that you can also help our audience learn?
All right. Well, we're going into a 2-hour podcast today, audience. Just kidding. We're not going to
Grab
get
your
into this.
beers.
Yeah, that's right. So first off, like when we talk about growth, I think that was the biggest oh crap moment is realizing, man, we grew, right? And then it's like, well, where's the money? Well, that's because all of the cash got sucked out of gross profit margin to reinvest into the growth. Okay. The second thing is, and a lot of us, and I don't want to make anybody feel guilty about this. We all got sucked into the whirlwind of the COVID and we had to keep up. We were worried, like, how long is this going to last? We got to keep up. Like, we can't be. Some of us were booked out 3, 4 months to do work. I mean, that was crazy. So we ran out and we bought equipment and trucks and capital investments and things. And what that does to a business is it erodes, bad pun, because I'm in foundation repair. It erodes the foundation out of the business. Essentially, you're stacking up long-term liabilities because many folks they finance these sometimes with zero down, or they lease them with not the correct payoff terms. But if you finance, what's happening is you're stacking up long-term liabilities and you don't have enough assets and cash in the business that you're technically insolvent, meaning you're not worth anything.
Right.
Or what's happening is your debt to equity ratio is negative. So I did that in an early business in the Carolinas and I did it even for a short term at Vesta. And you got to watch like what that means. And because it's going to, if you're an LLC, it's going to roll over in your personal taxes. A lot of people think, it's an LLC, you're fine. Like I'm protected from liability. No, after 3 years, that stuff's coming back on your taxes. Ask me how I know. And then my biggest
Yes.
mistake, I think I would say my biggest mistake is the thought that I need to expand into multiple territories to continue
Mm.
growth rather than refining areas that I already have. And I know a lot of us around the country have small markets with not a lot of people, but I would dare say it's better to diversify services than add another location. If your listeners want something real, like I ask them to hit me up in the show notes or hit me up. Like I opened an office in Dallas, Texas, and it was awesome. We started a new office in a big market. Hit me up. I'll tell you exactly how to lose $2.9 million in 2 years. And it's all based on this concept of over expansion, because over expansion doesn't mean just staffing up and new equipment, stuff like that. It means stretching your existing people and startup. It's still a startup, even if you're acquiring a smaller company. Like my expansion into Dallas, that's why in the bio, there's only 2 states, Mike, not three.
Yeah.
If we would have met 4 years ago, it would have been 3, but there's not. That was a difficult hit for me to be able to say, like, "Yeah, we have to shut this down," because it's not scalable, and it was also hurting our existing team, and
Mhm.
thank goodness we had enough cash in the bank to eventually say, "All right, we're coming out of this unscathed." A lot of companies don't do that. So, I talked to a lot of companies around the country that are 2, 3 million. They wanna open up another office, and it's like, "Let's prop up your main house first."
Too soon.
Mhm.
And, I've opened tons of offices in my 22 years of doing this, but, boy, that one see, I still didn't learn. I've been doing it long enough, but I still got hit 4 years ago on it. But nevertheless, that's one of my biggest screw ups for sure.
Oh, appreciate it for sharing. And that's what obviously we've got clients at the agency that they're excited to grow and they want to grow into new territories, and sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. And much like what you were saying, like the COVID gave everyone this false sense of security, a new reality, and like I never really thought this it was going to stick around. There was going to, kind of normalize. And I think we've seen it bounce back and
It's
forth.
that
It's
gold rush feeling.
yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
feast and famine kind of thing. And now I feel like you do, we're at this corrective state where leads are going to get more expensive. We've got a lot of economical, weather, political things at play. You see a lot of competitors, spinning up, folks that are leaving, maybe their firm got acquired by a private equity group. They choose not to stay, so they go and they spin off and they start their own. We've seen a lot of that as well. I think that we're going to have a little bit of a consolidation, and that's going to kind of play into these things. And what you're saying is, don't create this baggage that you've got to carry around and be responsible for, because you put so much undue pressure on yourself by buying all these trucks, and you scale up to this point, and then all of a sudden you're like, crap, now I have to generate that many leads and that many sales and that many installations, which means this many crews. And I could see how it could just spin out of control. So really, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and I think it's really like helpful and insightful for our audience overall for that to be your like oh crap like moment or your oh crap story, because like that's my oh crap story. Obviously, I don't operate a business, but that's the scariest thing that my clients do to me every single year is that, oh, it's randomly May and they're like, I hired on 3 new salespeople. We need to add, 30 more appointments to the books per month, ramp that up right now. We've got this next person starting in 30 days. And it's like all of a sudden they got that gold rush energy, right? Like they're just like, I'm conquering the world. This is happening right now. We're going to grow so fast. And like, I like that energy. I prefer that energy to the person who just wants to stay where they're at, like, obviously. But it does come off like it's a little too aggressive in a sense. Like, I like growth to be manageable and controlled and for you to have a target and work towards it. And when you hit that target, then you add that new attachment, which could be your next, work truck. It could be your next crew, your next salesperson. But like you get there first, right? And then you augment that into it. One other thing I wanted to say when you were saying that story, it reminded me of like, the efficiency of your services. So you mentioned like maybe look at diversifying your services. So that's another thing that I highly recommend. Mike's business partner constantly would say the easiest way to grow your business is like 3 things: increase your prices, increase your services, or increase your service area. I think the increasing your service area is the hardest one of those 3 to do. So
Absolutely.
the other 2 should be your pull right out of the pocket, like move, right? And then there was just one more thing, and then sorry, I'll stop hogging the ball, right? But when we were talking earlier about like rapid growth, right? And like just telling people I want more leads. I have a metaphor since we're playing that game today. I would love to race this car. I would love to gas, like pedal to the metal. Like as an agency, we make money off of you guys like doing more marketing. So like it's somewhat like against my own interest to tell you don't, right? But like I have to, right? But if you want to press pedal to the metal, I need you to clear the obstructions from the road. I need that path to be a straight line, for it to be a drag race, not a windy, twisty, turny with like random things in the middle of the roadway, right? Like if you want that 300 miles per hour, like F1 speed, like I need a track, not a trail. It's one of those things.
I need it not to be like a scene from Mad Max Furiosa, right? Like
Yes.
Twisted Metal, right?
Yes. Oh,
And,
that's
and
actually a really good show.
yeah,
They
and
they they made it a show.
That's true. Well, Will, I want to kind of jump ahead. Anthony and I prepared some questions for you, and I want to get into this, pay for performance discussion, because this is not anything that Anthony and I can talk about. So, like, we're just going to ask you questions because we want to understand more. I'm sure our audience wants to understand more. I know that we have a number of clients that utilize you, on this, as along with coaching and your platform. And you really kind of like systematize these things. And I want to peel back the layers a little bit and kind of expose it. So you know can you talk to us a little bit about, like, how did this start first, and then we can kind of expand on that.
well, and it's kind of funny because I know Ed's been on the show, and we all know Ed Meyer, just being a titan of our industry. We've all done some form of performance-based pay for the last 20 years.
Mhm.
It says, "Hey guys, listen, if you can work smarter, not harder, and hit within a certain time frame of the jobs, we're gonna give you the rest in a bonus," right? And 95% of us, even then, most the remaining 5% years ago was just a piece of notebook paper. But we would take a time card and then we would put it on a spreadsheet and then we sit there and figure it out. And then the guys would get their paycheck. Well, then the guys would say, "Hey, that my paycheck's wrong." Well, first off, the problem was nobody understood the performance-based system, and I'm guilty. We did this for years. And the second thing was it was insanely time-consuming for someone to sit around calculating and figuring out where little Johnny was on that job. And well, we had a call back on this other one, so we got to take away. And ultimately, what this did was it decentivized a system that was meant to reward employees because the employee thought they're taking money out of my pocket. The office thought they were being completely transparent because they're doing everything through spreadsheets. And then finally, about 3.5 years ago, because we were doing the same thing, I got tired of being a math teacher to guys. And that's not knocking on any of my employees, but the guys working in the field, their job is to lift houses, make dry basements, and make happy customers.
Yeah.
Their job is not to know how freaking spreadsheets work. And nor should they. Their job is to do a great, just deliver a great product and service to the customers, make them so happy that they hand a check, do a Google review, and come home. And so I created an app that budgeted all of their performance pay for them in real time. It was like a miniature banking app, is what it
Mhm.
was. All right, so here's my time, and that shows me that I'm going to make X amount of dollars in my regular rate. But because I made better decisions, I'm going to make $300 more this week. And before it even made it to payroll, they knew exactly what they were going to make. That's all I was trying to accomplish. Well, then a company came to me, and this was just meant to be something. And you guys will laugh at this. Like, I don't have a lot of hobbies. I'm not good at golf, and Sydney, my wife, won't let me have a boat. So I just learned JavaScript over the weekend on YouTube, several weekends, and just created a little app for the guys to use. And then somebody from another state said, "Hey, I have that problem. Can I use that?" And I did not realize that somebody wanted to use this. So now, fast forward, we got over 4,200 people on our system, spanning 3 different countries. And it's intended now to do three things. It is a time tracking system that is specifically for companies that want to create a performance based pay structure for their field teams. And we do this in sales all the time. We do commission sales reps, right? And
Yeah.
that's allowed in our system. But when you apply it to an hourly employee, that's very important. So we need to first make sure the employee understands how to make more money and be more efficient in the palm of their hand. That's the first thing. And that's what we do. The second thing is we need to make sure that the company is not just arbitrarily giving more money for the sake of trying to have a happy culture. We got to
Right.
protect the
Yes.
margin. So we see on average a 12% productivity increase. Same guys, same trucks on average in
So
the first
much.
100 days. So yeah, back to that analogy of $10,000 a month. Those companies, rather than spending 10% on marketing, they're spending 8.9 or
That's
something like
right.
that. So the last one is we need to make sure that we are not creating some payroll mess for the accountant in the office, or which is typically in many cases the owner. So we want to make sure that payroll processing is seamless. When we can get all those done, we typically see, as I mentioned, productivity go up 12%. Labor on average, this is gross, not net. Labor will go down anywhere between 3 and 6%. Straight to the bottom line. Highest performers we have seen labor drop 8% because the guys now have some skin in the game and
Yeah.
they want to get more jobs done. That's where you guys come in, actually. So we need to be cautious of that because guys will burn through work if they're go getters. And then on average, the employee sees about just shy of an $8 per hour increase in their wages.
That's awesome.
And
So it's a
it's
way,
massive. That's more than minimum wage in like
Yeah.
most states. It's so much.
yeah,
I know that like I've always believed in this platform, this program, because I was impressed on like day one, right? Like I met you guys out at the conference. I was like, wait a second, what does this thing do? And like it clicked for me instantly, like on both ends of it. It's a protection for you making sure that your team is doing work properly. Like it's a protection for making sure that your team is doing work efficiently and like, on time. And then it's a protection for not getting your employees like poached, like
Yeah.
to the next person that's going to offer them $2 more than what you're paying them. Right.
Mhm.
And like at the same time, it's also going to result in more revenue back to you. So like when I first saw like just the pitch of what this program could be, hadn't seen it tested, hadn't seen it like in practice. Like I was like, if that thing actually works, it's a no-brainer. Like, yeah, I understand why all of these like returns would be like involved in this type of tool being able to step in and like it's an efficiency on both sides argument. Like, and so I know that is why we ended up like developing this relationship between Performance IO and we've gotten to know Will a lot better. But I also have clients that have like used it. And like, if you're a client that's listening to this right now and you're not using this, I shame you. This is me
Schedule a demo.
shaming you.
Well,
Um,
hold on, don't shame anybody. I just had a client where they signed up, they're ready to go, and we're going through our onboarding, which is not a difficult process, but I work on the onboarding, and I got to know them. They were like, "Yeah, our backlog's 2 weeks," and I was like, "Skirt, time out. Let's fix that first." Like there may be something in there like your sales pricing, because if I put this in the hands of your guys, you may burn through that super fast. Yeah, and that requires a little strategizing. And that's something that I just like to tell people like, this isn't meant for everybody, but for the companies that know that they're scaling and back to those miniature steps that we're getting to before and bringing the whole business as a whole and dialing in efficiencies.
mm,
That's where I mean, I love just my favorite thing because I got 3 crews that installed over 2 million a piece last year. That didn't happen by circumstance. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and by dialing it in now and putting it in the palm of their hand, we've gotten better. Talking to guys out there in the blue collar world making over $100,000 a year, doing the work that we do,
Do.
and knowing that now the company doesn't have labor as a variable expense, it's the win, win, win because
Mhm.
mhm.
the employee wins, the company wins, and the accountants aren't sitting there pulling their hair out on spreadsheets. So it's
That's
just
right.
like one of my weird light bulb moments sitting at a computer on a Saturday because it was raining and I couldn't go out.
Well, we are
Here I
thankful
am.
for it, and I know the companies that are working with you on it are as well, and that's what I remember when Anthony came back from the conference, and he's like, "Man, okay, we got somebody that we gotta talk to," and, that's one of the things, like, obviously, we like exhibiting at conferences and presenting and everything else because you build these relationships, it's great for networking, you kind of get to learn a little bit more about what's going on and you talk to different businesses so you understand their struggles. And of course, almost every business is going to tell you, I need more leads, I need more leads. And, obviously we've talked about that, till we're blue in the face. But where I love seeing, and it's because, I came from that foundation repair waterproofing world, and I feel like the hardest working people in the entire company were the ones that are out there breaking concrete, humping the buckets, carrying all these things out, making the homeowner happy. And at the same time, it was always like this mystery. Oh, what were they being compensated? It was difficult to recruit. And we saw that all the time. So when Anthony's like, we got to schedule this demo. So we get this demo with you, and that's my first time meeting you. And I'm like, wow. Will's awesome. This is incredible. This platform's amazing. I love the visibility, the transparency, the ability to not only retain, as Anthony mentioned, but also you can hire based on that. You can transparently show the potential of these jobs. Like this is what the guys on our lowest impact crew make, and then these are the guys that have the greatest degree of impact. But guess what? You have control over how much money you make. How successful can you be? How happy can the person be? Make no mistakes. And then this puts focus back on training. The job
Yes.
costing.
Yeah.
Tremendous job. I love the platform. I'm obviously incredibly appreciative that you are, our first official sponsor of the podcast as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to be able to share this amazing news, with our listeners so that they can go and get their demo. I mean, obviously, you've put this program together for them to get some benefits. We'll put those in the show note so you can use that custom link. But well, what is the quick like wins that a contractor can get if they're interested in bringing performance pay in and looking at performance IO?
Yeah, well, the first one is if you don't know your margins, we're going to get to know them really well for you. So that's the first thing. And we're not in the business of being consultants, but in my heart, I kind of am one. I just love to help people. I should be living at a beach somewhere, but I'm not. But the next thing is I think the immediate that is seen is a direct influence over net operating profit. More cash left over at the end of the month that otherwise we didn't realize was sitting there the entire time. And then the long-term effects are typically cultural. Back to that recruiting side, I know we've got some great friends, Healthy Home Foundation Solutions up
Oh yeah,
in
Dr.
Indiana.
Todd,
I have never seen them fill so many seats so fast with the data that was in that system on recruiting.
incredible.
But on the HR side, we see that most companies, their best teams become their best recruiters because they want people on their team that will work smarter, not harder, and get jobs done.
That's right.
And so and then when you get a group of winners in a room, and let's just talk about winners. Winners want to
Mhm.
play with winners.
Yes.
And when you can fill a company with winners, and you're never going to be 100%, but by golly, if you can get above 60%, especially in a production team,
Mhm.
you are working with a championship team and they get better because they
Yeah.
want to gamify. And then it's not even about the money. They just don't want to be last.
That's right.
And that's what we see like 3, 4, 5, 6 months in. And it's so cool to see this, like these companies that like they're scaling without buying more stuff.
Yes.
It's like, no, we grew, and I want to be very clear, real stuff. We pulled back this last year to dial in efficiencies. We went from 15 million to 12 million and roundabout. You could throw whatever decimal you want in there, but 15
Sure.
million to 12 million. We made more net profit and we had 2 less trucks. Okay. Now we are on track to go to 16 million and we are going to have another less trucks. So we're going to do this more volume, $4 million more in volume with now a total of getting up to 3, 4 trucks that we don't need. They're parked. The
Yeah.
guys are installing more and they're enjoying it because they're making more money. I got guys making over $100,000 a year. My labor is the same every single month. It's no surprise.
That's incredible.
And then that's why I say the end game is I have the freedom to have fun with my marketing
Yes.
because it's on my terms, right?
Well, and it's beneficial too.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw firsthand. We did it with the Columbus Blue Jackets, very similar to what you were talking about, and it was because Ron over the years had built this great team. I wish that they had implemented performance, back in the day when I was still there, because I think it would have been even more of a recruiting asset.
yeah,
Retention wasn't necessarily a problem, but there was that luxury because of how well things were working that okay, you could do these different sponsorships, sponsored a concert venue, sponsored the big hockey team in town. But then what that did too, that recruited more. That did great with the branding. It was memorable. There was tons of placement. The vibe and the feel for working for the organization that was being a sponsor at that level. I'm gonna tell you, it's hard to describe and even like micro analyze the impact that it has throughout your business. But I love that that's what you guys are getting at. And that's what I'm hoping that the audience reaches out to you because your wealth of knowledge, the experience, everything that comes along with the Performance IO platform, and the fact that they get to do an onboarding with you to learn, you're getting the insight on their business and you can give them, some of the information and time it out. That's incredible to me.
yeah. Well, and back to that whole, aspect of like culture, for
Yeah.
example. The culture is a byproduct of it. However, I like to tell people like if the inmates are running the asylum and you have a culture because you're just arbitrarily giving things away at your profit, at the cost of
Mm.
your profit, that has to change first. Your leadership directive and style needs to change because I love my employees. I love them. I don't love them, but I appreciate them and what they do. But they know the direction I'm going and they're either on the bus or not. And the people that are on the bus are killing it.
Yes.
And my company is not made for everybody. So we have had companies that we've looked at it and during onboarding said, well, you have 5 crews right now but just knowing what I know across the country in your regional area, you should have less than 3. And before we proceed, are you prepared to go through that dynamic change? And that person said, we have to. I can't afford to be the charity to everybody, and I'm left with nothing at the end of the year. And within 90 days, they were down to 3 crews. Those
That's
3
incredible.
crews were installing more than the 5
More
crews
than the
were
5.
originally. So, but it was that leadership step. So I don't want to say it's a simple plug and play because there are some companies, man, they take it and go. But there's an internal leadership conversation and change that needs to take place that is very important. And if you're not willing to take that leap and join the ranks, then hey, it's just not for you. Okay.
Mhm.
But if you're going to scale, this is tied to so many things in your job costing, labor, and materials that it's very important to know, and even capital investments, things like that, capex expenditures, sorry, that if you want to play in the big league games, like we got to start playing like big league player and thinking like big league coaches, right? And
That's
this
right.
is part of that transition. So, and I love it. I got $1 million a year companies that get on this, and man, they're after it, but they're not
Mhm.
doing it for the sake of growth. They're doing it for the sake of efficiency,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
love it. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll just say one last thing on that. Like the reason I think the program fits so well into kind of school of thought at the agency is the fact that it's a tool for observation and like efficiency improvement. And that is something that we preach and try to teach and instill in like, internally in our own teams, externally to our clients. And like you were saying before, just moving in that direction, having that type of focus and like getting your mind used to doing that. Like this is a lifestyle. It's one of those things because that frame of mind is really the frame of mind you need to tackle most of business with, right?
Mm.
It's not just your production team. So,
and if you
So
want to use it just as a straight time clock, because it's a time tracking application at its core, we just put this extra degree of proprietary, focus on it. You can use it that way. If you want the secret sauce, then doesn't cost you any extra, but boy, you can get some awesome results out of it. So
that's right. Will, how would people learn more about Performance IO?
yeah, well, first off, misspell it on any browser. First off, because it was something that was dreamed up on a keyboard on a weekend. It's PER, the number 4, MANCE. And yeah, if you search us on Facebook, it's performance time tracking. And I say Facebook. Also, you can look us up on Trustpilot or online. We got tons of reviews on there. And reach out to those reviews, but visit the website. There's even a walkthrough tutorial on it right there on the main page. But if they want to get a hold of me specifically, you can reach me at will@performance.io. And of course, I'm active on a lot of our Facebook groups and LinkedIn. So I'll get you guys all that for the show note links as well.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. All right.
Yeah.
Now you did this to me when I was a guest with you and Terry. So we're
Uh-oh. I'm gonna
with
is this
you.
gonna be an acronym quiz game? Uh-oh.
No, no. But we're doing it beers with contractor style.
Beer. Dude, I, damn it. I got
Man, slacking. Come on.
that's right. Yeah.
So we're gonna hit you with a series of questions. We won't go like ridiculously fast, but I'm
Okay.
interested to see what your answers are here. So, what is the most overrated KPI that contractors like to brag about?
Top line sales, not
that is the correct
install
answer, sir.
sales.
Okay, what is most underrated KPI then?
Yeah. Net operating profit.
All right. What's one thing that you would ban from contractor social media advice?
Ooh. How much do you charge for this on a social media feed?
I agree with you.
Blindly just throwing out, "Hey, how much would you charge to rip out a deck?" And it's like, what's your price per square foot for this? No
Yeah,
regards to margins whatsoever.
Yep.
Stop doing
See
it.
it all the time.
Yeah.
that's actually a really good one. I didn't even think. Your simplest rule for keeping production from getting sloppy.
Okay. Daily huddles and daily check-ins. 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, pictures of the job, get them out before you leave. We're going to go over this.
Love it.
Obviously, job site visits help, but when you have 14 crews running around, it's hard to do that. So, but
Oh yeah.
that daily cadence, because if you get a call back, you can tell them right then and there, you got a call back. This is the reason why. This is why you're going back tomorrow. This is why it's coming out of your performance pay. Don't do that again. Off you go. Daily, small doses, not one big long conversation.
That's great. Well, we have loved having you on. I'm hoping that all of our listeners got value out of this. I know Anthony and I did. I mean, we were excited to have you on to be able
Yeah.
to get all of this information. So, obviously there's a theme to all of this. And it was funny, looking at the notes that you had sent over too, that, marketing creates these operations or creates the opportunities, but operations is really what is creating the production to give you money back. And that's why
Yeah.
you're saying, and I'm going to tell Alyssa, we should probably use this as the title. Sales is for the show. Production is for the dough. I love it. And it makes
It
perfect sense.
it's one of those where hopefully that dough gets recycled back to where you can have fun with the marketing and not feel a victim or held hostage by marketing, which is good.
Yes.
But cool. Yeah,
Right.
happy to be here, guys. I love you.
Yeah,
Mike, thanks for being on the show. Look forward to helping your listeners. And yeah, thanks for having me.
for sure. No, thank you very much for coming on. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the Contractor's Edge. If you got value today, please make sure that you follow, like, and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or whichever streaming platform that you prefer. Share this episode with another contractor that could use the edge. Make sure that you click the link in the subscription or in the show notes so that you can use our special discount that we'll set up for everything. For more tools, resources, and support, visit yourcontractorsedge.com. We'll be back soon with more tips, tools, and tactics to help you grow your business.